Hong Dae-young goes to the supermarket to buy something. Suddenly, he sees the cashier is his daughter Shura. He gets angry and scolds her loudly. He asks why she isn't in class at this time. This confuses the girl completely. She asks, "Who are you?" Then the store manager comes over and asks what's happening. Dae-young says he's Shura's father. Hearing this, the girl calls him crazy. Dae-young gets even more upset. He scolds her for calling her own father crazy. He tries to take her home. Shura struggles desperately. Seeing this, the manager warns him, "Leave now or I'll call the police." So Dae-young lets go of Shura and tells her to come home with him. But when he reaches the door and sees his reflection in the glass, he freezes in shock. He has turned into his 18-year-old self. He steps outside and stares at his reflection in a car window, completely stunned. Then the car window rolls down. The driver asks, "Hey kid, what's wrong?" Dae-young quickly asks him, "How old do I look?" But the driver just drives away. Meanwhile, the store manager and Shura lock the door and call the police. Seeing this, Dae-young has no choice but to leave. He then goes to his best friend Deok-jin's house. But Deok-jin mistakes him for a thief and knocks him out. Just as Deok-jin picks up a photo frame to hit him, he realizes Dae-young looks exactly like in the old photo. When Dae-young wakes up, he tells Deok-jin about turning 18 again. Deok-jin asks him, "Since you're young again, what do you plan to do?" Dae-young tells Deok-jin to act as his father so he can go back to school. And so, Dae-young enrolls in high school as Deok-jin's son. He even ends up in the same class as Shura. When Shura sees Dae-young, she remembers yesterday's incident and yells, "You crazy guy!" The teacher says, "Shura, speak properly if you have something to say." During class, Dae-young suddenly gets a call from his wife. Still not used to being a student, he stands up with his phone to answer it. But the teacher stops him. He has no choice but to pretend he's going to the bathroom. His wife tells him to set a divorce date soon. She adds, "If you miss the second court date, you'll lose custody automatically." Dae-young refuses to accept this. His wife snaps, "You never cared for the kids. Why object now?" Dae-young walks to the door, looking at his daughter through the window. He says, "I'm closer to them than you think." After hanging up, he heads to the bathroom. There, he finds someone locked inside. When he opens the door, it's his son, Shur-woo. Furious, he asks, "Who did this?" But Shur-woo doesn't recognize his younger father. He warns Dae-young not to tell anyone he freed him, or the school bully will retaliate. Worried, Dae-young follows him out, trying to get answers. But in the hallway, Shura stops him. She leads him to the rooftop, bringing 2 friends for backup. Shura tells Dae-young, "Stay away from me." But Dae-young isn't intimidated. He reveals Shur-woo was bullied. She gasps, "Shur-woo got bullied again." Seeing she knew, Dae-young asks, "Why didn't you tell your dad?" Shura scoffs, "You're delusional about being a father." She storms off. Dae-young thinks, "Is this really my sweet, obedient daughter? My real daughter must be out there somewhere." After learning about her brother, Shura decides to confront the bully. But Dae-young reaches the cafeteria first, asking Shur-woo, "Why didn't you scream when locked in?" Shur-woo mutters, "That's embarrassing." Just then, the school bully walks into the cafeteria with his friends. He goes straight up to Shur-woo and Hong Dae-young. He makes fun of Shur-woo. Then, he throws a basketball at Shur-woo's head. After that, he walks away like he owns the place. Dae-young can't stand seeing his son treated like this. Dae-young shouts, "Hey, come here!" The bully throws the ball at Dae-young, but Dae-young catches it easily. The bully demands the ball back. Dae-young fakes throwing it, and the bully flinches and covers his head. The bully feels embarrassed. He steps forward, ready to fight, but a teacher arrives and stops him. The bully leaves after making a threat. Later, Dae-young gets angrier the more he thinks about it. His son got bullied, but he couldn't do anything. He goes to a corner to smoke, feeling upset. But then he sees Shura smoking there too. He yells in shock. Shura gets scared, thinking it's the teacher. Dae-young scolds her for smoking at her age, but Shura tells him to mind his own business. Suddenly, Shura sees something. She turns and runs away. A teacher appears and slaps Dae-young on the head. Dae-young turns around. It's his old high school classmate. The teacher recognizes him too, but he can't remember his name. Then, the teacher asks who else was smoking. He says he'll go easy if Dae-young tells him. So, Dae-young gives up Shura. He even tells the teacher to discipline her properly. But when the teacher keeps hitting Shura's head, Dae-young can't take it. He grabs the teacher's hand and says, "A scolding is enough." The teacher agrees. Instead, he calls for Shura's parents. Dae-young sees it's his wife, Dae-jong. He quickly turns away. He doesn't want her to recognize him. The teacher asks Shura where she got the cigarettes. Shura says she stole them from her mom. Hearing this, Dae-young gets upset. He stands up and scolds them for smoking. When Dae-jong sees Dae-young, she can't believe her eyes. She stands up and slowly walks toward him. She looks at young Dae-young, completely shocked. She walks up and pinches his face. The teacher quickly stops her, saying, "This behavior isn't appropriate at school." Dae-jong tells her daughter, "He looks exactly like your dad when he was young." Dae-young wants to start a new life without his family knowing, so he changes his name to Woo-young. Just as he might get caught, Deok-jin arrives just in time and lies that this is his son. Dae-jong is confused. Why does Deok-jin's son look exactly like young Dae-young? The teacher tells them to return to class, so they leave. Dae-jong is upset about divorcing Dae-young. Her friend invites her out. They meet a high school classmate who always had a crush on Dae-jong. He offers to drive her home after their date. Before she can refuse, he happily runs to get his car. Dae-jong and her friend leave the shop. Her friend sees she's still sad, so she tells Dae-jong, "Walk forward with your eyes closed. Count to 10 and open them. The first man you see will be your new love." So, Dae-jong walks forward with her eyes closed. She thinks about her hard life. Her husband always drank and smoked. They're almost divorced. Young coworkers push her around at work. Her friend answers a phone call behind her. Dae-jong doesn't notice she's walking toward the road. Just as a car is about to hit her, a hand suddenly pulls her back. She opens her eyes and sees Dae-young. This scene feels so familiar. Just then, the man from earlier drives up. He's also Dae-young's high school classmate and his current PE teacher, Choi Il-kwon. The teacher offers to drive Dae-jong home. Dae-young won't allow it. He quickly says it's unsafe for a student to go home alone and asks the teacher to take him too. The teacher can't refuse. The next day, Dae-jong exercises as usual when yesterday's events come to mind. She rushes home and grabs Dae-young's old photo. Staring at the picture and thinking of Go Woo-young now, everything suddenly makes sense to her. She storms into Deok-jin's house, demanding, "Are you Hong Dae-young?" Dae-young is shocked. Has she figured it out? She says, "You're his son, right?" Deok-jin asks, "His son? Why would you think that?" She insists, "You must be Hong Dae-young's son." Turns out, she didn't recognize him. She thinks he's Dae-young's secret child. She compares him to Dae-young's old photo. Deok-jin quickly explains, "His mom just looks like Hong Dae-young." Dae-jong doesn't believe him. She grabs her phone to call Dae-young for proof. But Dae-young's phone is in his pocket right now. Panicking, Deok-jin tells Dae-young, "You'll be late for school." Dae-young hurries away and answers the call outside. Dae-jong asks, "Is Go Woo-young your son?" Dae-young lies. Go Woo-young is Deok-jin's son, but they look identical. She refuses to believe it. When Dae-young stays silent, Dae-jong suddenly wonders, is Go Woo-young both their son? The thought horrifies her. Dae-young quickly explains, "Go Woo-young's mom just resembles me." This finally satisfies her. One day, Dae-young sees Shura taking a taxi to school with friends. Back in class, he overhears girls complaining about not getting allowance. Shura says, "How can we ask Dad for money?" Dae-young thinks, "My daughter is so responsible." But then, Shura shows her friends how she gets money. She says, "Dream." She's been asking Dad for money by saying she had good dreams. Dae-young always paid for good luck. Her friends are impressed. Dae-young hears this and gets angry. He confronts them and scolds them. "How could you trick your fathers?" He says they waste money on taxis, 160,000 won per month, and you still need more allowance. The girls are shocked. One girl says her dad drives a taxi, so she rides for free. Dae-young feels embarrassed. "Oh, your dad drives a taxi? Never mind then." But Shura thinks he's annoying and leaves the classroom. A girl tells Dae-young, "Shura hates nosy people like her dad. Nosy, old-fashioned." Outside, one girl agrees with Dae-young. "I'll wake up early and stop taking taxis. Handsome guys are hard to stay mad at." Shura rolls her eyes. After school, it starts raining. Shura forgot her umbrella. Dae-young sees this, rushes to buy an umbrella, and holds it over her while getting wet. When he leaves, Shura sees him holding another umbrella. She wonders why he didn't use it. Why does he have an umbrella but doesn't use it himself? Turns out, Hong Dae-young kept this umbrella for his son. The next day, Dae-young sees his son, Shur-woo, being bullied by the school bully again. He walks up and asks Hong Shur-woo, "Why do you put up with it? If they bully you again, fight back." Then, he goes to find Ja-sung and his gang, ready to teach them a lesson. He says to Ja-sung, "Let's fight." Soon, news about their fight spreads across the whole school. Shura hears this and rushes to check. On the playground, they decide to settle things with a basketball game, 2 players per team. If Dae-young wins, Ja Sung will stop bullying Hong Shirwoo. If Ja Sung wins, Dae-young will take a beating. But Ja Sung doesn't know, Dae-young used to be really good at basketball. Soon, Dae-young's team wins the game. Hong Shirwoo also regains his confidence during the match. Ja Sung has to leave with his gang in shame. But Dae-young doesn't expect Ja Sung to take his anger out on Shira instead. When Dae-young sees this, he's about to step in, but Ji-ho suddenly punches Ja Sung first. Turns out, it's Ji-ho, who has always liked Shira. Ja Sung gets up to fight back, but Ji-ho kicks him away. Soon, the two are wrestling on the ground. Ji-ho gets knocked down by a punch. Then, Ja Sung snaps a mop handle and raises the wooden stick to attack, but Dae-young grabs him. Ja Sung struggles twice, but can't break free. Suddenly, Ji-ho gets up and tackles Ja Sung into the hallway. A teacher arrives and stops them. Later, both are taken to the office for a scolding. After leaving the office, Ja Sung meets Shira in the hallway. Without a word, Shira punches him in the stomach. As she leaves, Shira warns him, "Don't ever bully Shirwoo again, or you'll regret it." During an interview, someone throws water on Dae-jong. Everyone is shocked by what just happened. As people stand there, unsure what to do, Dae-jong just smiles and says, "Getting wet actually feels nice in this heat." Her quick thinking saves the awkward moment. Turns out, Dae-jong was a school announcer in high school. Her dream has always been to become a TV anchor. Finally today, Dae-jong passes her interview. She happily hugs her best friend to celebrate. Meanwhile, Dae-young hears his wife's good news and dances happily in the hallway. Passing students can't help but laugh at him. Shirwoo happens to walk by and hides his face with a book, pretending not to know him. But Dae-young stops him and insists on treating him to lunch. Shirwoo has no idea that Dae-young is actually his father. Dae-young mysteriously changed from 40 back to 18 years old and secretly returned to high school without telling his family. Just then, Dae-jong approaches them. Dae-young quickly says hello and leaves. Later, Dae-jong shares her exciting news with her son. They hug each other happily. Suddenly, Dae-young joins their hug. Both are completely confused. Dae-jong pushes him away, wondering who this strange guy is. But Dae-young just shamelessly moves closer again. Meanwhile, when the TV station bosses learn Dae-jong is a mother, they immediately demote her to 4th place. A younger, prettier girl takes her original 1st place spot. Dae-jong doesn't know about this yet. Watching her coworkers get their own shows, she feels envious. Then, her team leader calls her over. She hopes it's about getting a show, but he just asks her to deliver coffee. Later that day, a baseball game ends and needs a reporter. The scheduled anchor can't make it, so they send Dae-jong instead. She rushes to change and arrives on site, only to learn there's no prepared script. The director tells Dae-jong, "This interview is very important." But during the interview, the team celebrates their victory by trying to pour water on their captain. A player carries a bucket toward him but trips and falls. The water splashes all over Dae-jong instead. This scene is seen live by her son on TV. Dae-jong handles it smoothly, and the broadcast makes her go viral. People online praise her. But soon, news breaks that Dae-jong is a mom. They also dig up that she had Shira as a teen mom. Shira gets bullied at school because of this. When her boss finds out, he thinks Dae-jong embarrasses the company. He arranges a team gathering where the player who spilled water on Dae-jong is told to let her pour water back on him. The boss pretends to support her but actually wants to force her to quit. Dae-jong saves the player from humiliation with a clever solution. She cheers, "Let's do our best together." The boss then suggests another interview, pushing the audition's #1 winner, who actually ranked 4th. But the baseball player requests Dae-jong instead. The boss says, "Young girls interview better." But the player jokes, "I'm actually an old man too." Seeing his choice, the boss has to agree. Meanwhile, after Ji-ho fights the school bully, he visits Shira at her convenience store job. She bandages his wounds. He walks to the shelves and buys her a meal when he learns she skipped dinner. Dae-young enters, carrying heavy boxes for Shira. He worries about her lifting such heavy things. He buys her a meal too, and when Shira asks if he needs a bag, he says, "This is for you. Don't forget to eat," he reminds her. Ji-ho watches this and mistakes Dae-young for another admirer. Dad becomes 18 years old again. Now he's in the same class as his daughter. During P class, he sees Shira suddenly faint. Dae-young quickly carries Shira to the hospital. The P teacher rushes after them. Meanwhile, Dae-jong hears about Shira's illness after finishing an interview and hurries to the hospital. The doctor says Shira is okay. Looking at his unconscious daughter, he notices a little girl getting bandaged nearby. This reminds him of when Shira got hurt as a child, and he carried her to the hospital. He felt terrible seeing Shira cry back then. Now Shura has grown up. He can't help but pat her head gently. But Shura suddenly wakes up and slaps his hand away, asking, "What are you doing?" Shura doesn't know this boy is actually her father. Shura sits up. "Why were you touching my hair?" Dae-young says. "I carried you here when you fainted." Shura remembers now and says, "You should have left after bringing me here. Where do you think you're putting your hands? Do you want to lose them?" Dae-young laughs angrily. "Always be this tough with other men too, got it?" Shura is completely confused. Deokjin gets a call from Dae-young. He hears teacher Hyen's voice on the phone. He uses visiting Shura as an excuse to see Hyen. Dae-jong's friend follows him because she wants to see Dae-young. Soon, Dae-jong arrives at the hospital. She relaxes when she sees Shura is fine. Dae-jong thanks Dae-young for bringing Shura. She tells Deokjin, "You raised your son well. How about we arrange their marriage?" Hearing this, Dae-young and the friend spit out their water in shock. Poor Deokjin gets splashed. Then he sees his crush, Hyen. Embarrassed to be seen like this, Deokjin runs out of the hospital. Dae-jong goes to pay the hospital bill, but the nurse checks and finds someone already paid the bill. Just then, Dae-jong gets a message. It turns out the PE teacher, Choi Il-kwan, paid for it. Meanwhile, Dae-jong holds her husband's resignation letter. She calls Hong Dae-young to ask where he is. Dae-young lies, saying he's on a business trip, but he doesn't know his resignation letter was already mailed home. Dae-jong scolds him. "Why aren't you worried about our sick daughter? Why are you never here when we need you?" Now they don't need Dae-young anymore. After hanging up, Dae-young gets angry too. "If you knew I'm really Hong Dae-young, would you still say that?" Just then, Dae-young sees Shura complaining to friends. "My dad is never there when we need him. He doesn't need us anymore." Hearing this, Dae-young leaves sadly. He's been with them all along but keeps getting misunderstood. Next day is the deadline for Dae-young and Dae-jong's divorce. But Dae-young still doesn't come. As the judge is about to announce, Dae-young arrives, now back as his 18-year-old self. Is he going to reveal his identity? Dae-jong sees him and thinks he's Deokjin's son, Go Woo-young. He says, "I'm here." Then Dae-young takes out a letter. "Hong Dae-young asked me to deliver this." The letter says she gets full custody. The man, now 18 again, attends high school. His old rival, Choi Il-kwan, is now his PE teacher. A girl asks the teacher to share his first love story. The class cheers excitedly. Only Dae-young looks furious. He knows Choi Il-kwan's first love is his wife. So, Choi Il-kwan tells about watching movies with his first love. Then the teacher adds, "She's divorced now, so we can be together soon." Hearing this, Dae-young gets angrier. He snaps his pencil. After school, Dae-young hears his daughter say, "Mom's first love wasn't Dad." Dae-young suddenly gets upset. He shouts, "What? I wasn't her first love." Shura gets scared by his reaction. She turns and says, "Mom told me her first love wasn't Dad." Hearing this, Dae-young feels very depressed. When he sees Dae-jong on the street, he ignores her. But when he notices her carrying 2 heavy bags, he immediately goes to help. After dropping them off, Dae-jong offers him some money, but Dae-young refuses. After walking away, he thinks about telling her his real identity, so he turns back to follow her. But when he enters, he sees Choi Il-kwan hugging Dae-jong. Dae-young thinks she's cheating on him, but then Dae-jong pushes Choi Il-kwan away. After that, she returns the money for Shura's medical bill to him. Choi Il-kwan says, "After your divorce, if you need help, you can come to me." But then he starts bad-mouthing Dae-young, which makes Dae-jong very angry. She gets up and leaves. Dae-young is surprised that she defended him in front of others. The next day at work, the girl who replaced Dae-jong as top performer is about to be fired because she's not good at her job. She goes up to Dae-jong and pretends to be friendly, taking a photo with her. But then she posts it online, exposing Dae-jong's divorce, with a caption saying, "Even though you're divorced, don't let it bring you down. Stay strong." Soon, the company bosses find out. The girl acts innocent and says, "I didn't mean to." Meanwhile, Shura is almost late for school. Ji-ho sees this and pretends to tie his shoelaces to delay the teacher from closing the gate. After Shura gets inside, Ji-ho stands up and gives the teacher a small gift, thanking her for her help. The teacher smiles happily when she sees the chocolate. During break time, news about Shura's parents' divorce spreads at school. A classmate shows Shura the photos. Meanwhile, Hong Dae-young hasn't been to school since the divorce. His homeroom teacher, Hyen, visits to check on him. She sees Dae-young holding a beer. The teacher's expression changes instantly. Then, Deokjin walks over. Hyen asks, "How can you let your son drink?" Soon after, Deokjin follows the teacher outside. She asks why Dae-young isn't attending school. Deokjin blurts out, "Because he got divorced." The teacher is completely confused. Deok-jin quickly explains, "Not him, and not me either." Seeing his poor explanation, Hyein angrily turns and leaves. Back at home, she meets a neighbor downstairs. The neighbor asks, "Haven't seen your roommate lately?" But Hyein says, "I live alone, no roommate." She then enters her apartment. Inside, she opens her closet, revealing a gaming setup inside. She sits down and gets a call from a friend inviting her to game. The scene changes. Hyein changes clothes and heads out. She arrives at a PC bang. Seeing her gaming friend online, they start chatting. Unbeknownst to her, this friend is Deok-jin. He asks, "What gift makes women happiest?" She replies, "A limited edition golden helmet." Coincidentally, Deok-jin owns one. The next day, on his way to school, Dae-young hears classmates gossiping about Shura's mom's divorce. He spots the school bully, Ja-sung, following his daughter. He grows nervous. Ja-sung says, "You dropped this." "What?" Shura sees spilled trash on the ground. She goes to get a new trash bag. He says, "Heard your parents divorced." Shura expects trouble, but Ja-sung comforts her instead. "Every family has its struggles. My parents are divorced too." He tells Shura not to be upset. That night, Shura cries alone for a long time. School bully Ja-sung sees everything. After Shura leaves, the school dean suddenly appears. He asks who made the mess on the ground. Ja-sung admits it was him and helps clean up Shura's trash. Dae-young sees this from nearby. It changes Dae-young's opinion of Ja-sung. The man returns to being 18 years old and sees his wife De-jong on a date with Yi Ji-hoon. He yells to stop them, because his wife doesn't recognize him as her husband. She says hello but quickly walks away. Soon, she twists her ankle. Both men rush to help her, but De-jong only cares about her high heels. Yi Ji-hoon offers to take her to the hospital. Dae-young feels terrible seeing another man hold his wife. He's heartbroken. Luckily, the doctor says De-jong is fine. Meanwhile, Dae-young fixes her shoes outside and buys her slippers, but Yi Ji-hoon buys her sneakers instead. When Dae-young enters the hospital, he sees Yi Ji-hoon putting shoes on De-jong. Dae-young returns her fixed high heels but keeps the slippers. Later, Dae-young visits Deok-jin's company. Deok-jin shows him Yi Ji-hoon's autograph. Dae-young gets angry and throws his clothes on the floor. They start arguing. Meanwhile, De-jong's friend Ae-rin complains about work. Suddenly, her slippers break. She almost falls, but Dae-young catches her in time. Then, he gives her the slippers he bought earlier. Ae-rin already likes Dae-young and now she likes him even more. She smiles while wearing the slippers. The next day, Dae-young and his son come home. But now, he's pretending to be his son's classmate. Dae-young sees dirty dishes in the sink. He tells Shurwoo to do his homework first while he washes the dishes. Just then, Shura comes home with her classmates. Shura is shocked to see him and asks, "What are you doing?" But her female classmate praises Dae-young as a good family man. Dae-young asks if Shura has eaten. Shura snaps, "None of your business! Are you my dad?" Little does she know, Dae-young really is her father, but Dae-young can't explain. Suddenly, his mother-in-law calls. He rushes to the bathroom to answer. She asks, "Where are you?" Dae-young says he's on a business trip. She asks why he divorced De-jong. Dae-young quickly says, "It's complicated." After hanging up, Dae-young steps out of the bathroom only to see his mother-in-law in the house. He gets scared and covers his face, afraid she'll recognize him. She thinks he looks familiar but can't remember where from. Dae-young quickly leaves. The next day, Ae-rin wears the slippers Dae-young gave her, remembering yesterday's events. She calls De-jong to meet that evening. Meanwhile, Choi Il-kwan sees teacher Hyein leaving work and offers to drive her home, but she refuses. When Hyein steps outside, she meets Deok-jin, who also offers her a ride. Hyein sees the limousine nearby and refuses without hesitation. Deok-jin asks Hyein on a date, but she says, "I have a boyfriend," then walks away. As soon as she leaves, Choi Il-kwan stops Deok-jin. "What were you doing with my Hyein?" Deok-jin is shocked, thinking Choi Il-kwan is dating Hyein. Then Choi Il-kwan adds, "I'm dating teacher Hyein. It's a secret. I'm only telling you." That night, Ae-rin asks De-jong, "What should I do about my 40-year-old friend who likes a high school student?" De-jong says, "That woman must be crazy." Just then, De-jong's phone rings, and she steps out to answer it. Ae-rin buries her face in her hands, embarrassed. Meanwhile, Dae-young comes to the shop looking for Deok-jin. Deok-jin tells him, "Teacher Hyeon's boyfriend is actually teacher Choi." Dae-young says, "No problem, you never had a chance anyway." Deok-jin snaps, "Hong Dae-young, are you even my friend?" Nearby, Ae-rin overhears the name, Hong Dae-young, and walks up to them. She asks, Go Woo-young, are you actually Hong Dae-young? Dae-young and Deok-jin immediately jump to their feet. Flustered, Dae-young accidentally calls her Aerin, but Aerin never told them her name. Now she's absolutely sure he's Hong Dae-young. Just then, Dae-jong returns. She says she has to leave early, but Aerin stops her, ready to share her secret. She says, I need to tell you something. Shura is late for school. Surprisingly, Ja-sung, the bully who used to pick on her brother, purposely waits at the gate to be late with her. Soon, all late students are punished with running laps. Ji-ho joins them and takes Shura's backpack to carry it for her. Shura asks, Why are you here? You weren't late. Ji-ho claims he's doing volunteer work. The teacher yells at them to run faster. Shura speeds up immediately. Ja-sung throws his bag to Ji-ho too, but Ji-ho just drops it on the ground. After class, Shura forgets her pencil case. Ji-ho picks it up to return it to her, but Ja-sung grabs it at the same time. Neither boy will let go. Just then, Shura comes back. Seeing them like this, she takes the case from them and walks away. Meanwhile, Aerin accidentally finds out Hong Dae-young's true identity. She wants to tell Dae-jong about it, but she's too excited and can't get the words out. Dae-jong is in a hurry to leave and tells Aerin to talk later. After Dae-jong leaves, Deok-jin lies and says he was just on the phone with Hong Dae-young. But Aerin doesn't believe him. She takes out her phone and calls Hong Dae-young. When she sees the phone on the table ring, she finally confirms Dae-young's identity. Dae-young's identity? Deok-jin says. Didn't I tell you to get another phone? Dae-young begs Aerin not to tell Dae-jong the secret. But Aerin is furious because the guy she likes is actually her best friend's husband. She turns around and leaves. But later, drunk, she tells Coach Choi about it. Meanwhile, Dae-young and Sherwoo are taking their team tryouts. Coach Choi watches Dae-young on the court and remembers how he looked when he was young. He recalls Aerin saying that Go Woo-young is actually Hong Dae-young. Soon, Dae-young and Sherwoo pass the test. Now they just need a parent meeting to officially join the team. Dae-young sees his daughter Shura at the door and waves at her. Shura pretends not to see him, but Ji-ho and Ja-sung notice. Both boys mistake Dae-young for a rival. After school, Sherwoo tells Dae-young, I don't know how to handle the parent meeting. Dae-young tells him, just tell your parents about playing basketball. On the way back, they run into Dae-jong and Aerin. Dae-jong tells Dae-young she knows everything. Dae-young thinks Aerin told her about him turning young again. Afraid Dae-jong is angry, he asks to talk to her alone, but Dae-jong says, Why would I be mad about you and Sherwoo playing basketball? Turns out, Aerin didn't tell her about his secret. Dae-young is grateful to Aerin. On the day of the parent meeting, Coach Choi invites Dae-jong to a bar. As soon as she sits down, some men start flirting with her. They even ask Dae-jong to pour drinks for them. Dae-jong can't take it anymore and tries to leave, but Coach Cho stops her. He then gives her a bank account number and demands a transfer. Turns out, Coach Cho has been using his position to take bribes from parents. He tells Dae-jong, If you don't pay, Sherwoo won't be allowed to compete. You'll be the one ruining your son's dreams. Soon after, Deok-jin arrives at the bar as Hong Dae-young's father. Coach Cho gives Deok-jin the same bank account. This makes Deok-jin furious. He throws the note down and leaves. Back at home, he tells Dae-young about Coach Cho's bribes. The next day, Dae-young runs into Coach Cho in the hallway. Coach Cho deliberately calls out, Hong Dae-young! Then he says, Oops, my mistake. You're Go Woo-young. That night, Dae-jong brings the money to Coach Cho, planning to record evidence of his bribery. But Coach Cho quickly catches her. He says, Let me tell you something interesting about Hong Dae-young. Soon, Dae-young gets word and rushes over. He chases after Dae-jong, asking what happened, but Dae-jong doesn't tell him. Instead, she drinks alone. She remembers what Coach Cho just told her. 10 years ago, Dae-young's dream was to play basketball, but then their son developed asthma. The condition required constant treatment. To pay for the medical bills, Dae-young had to give up basketball. At work, he gets scolded by his boss, but he just takes it silently. Over time, Dae-young drinks more and more. This makes Dae-jong resent him even more. Thinking of this, Dae-jong breaks down in tears. Dae-young watches from outside, his heart aching for her, but he can't reveal his true identity. Because neither of them paid the money, Teacher Choi makes them clean the field, saying, You're just juniors. Dae-young feels bad and lets Ja-sung leave first. Just then, Ja-sung comes out and sees his dad here. He quietly follows him, and sees his dad giving money to Teacher Choi. Ja-sung feels ashamed of his dad. Dad says, If you were better at this, I wouldn't need to bribe people. Then he slaps Ja-sung. Ja-sung grabs a stick to hit back, but Dae-young stops him in time. Ja-sung warns Dae-young not to tell anyone. Dae-young hands him a beer instead. Don't hate your dad, Dae-young says. You'll regret it later. Ja-sung takes a sip and immediately passes out. Dae-young carries him to Deok-jin's house. That day, Deok-jin sees Choi Il-kwon hugging another woman. He punches him right away. Soon, both are taken to the police station. Teacher Choi says, "He hit me first." The police suggest they make peace. Deok-jin calls Teacher Hyun, but Teacher Choi quickly stops him. They leave the station and meet Hyun arriving. Deok-jin tells Hyun, "Your boyfriend, Choi Il-kwon, was hugging another woman." Hyun looks completely confused. Turns out, Deok-jin mistook Teacher Choi for Hyun's boyfriend. Hyun explains that she only said she had a boyfriend to make Deok-jin give up on her and not misunderstand their relationship. Teacher Choi tells Hyun, "Stop acting so innocent. You lead people on. That's why they misunderstand." Hearing this, Deok-jin punches him again. The scene changes. Now they're back at the police station. Even the police are confused. Meanwhile, Ja-sung wakes up at Deok-jin's house. Dae-young explains, "You got drunk last night. I carried you home." Meanwhile, Coach Choi finds Dae-jong. He tells her, "If you don't pay soon, your son will never play in games again." He warns her to get the money ready. So, Dae-jong gathers all the basketball parents to report Coach Choi. But the parents are too scared to speak up. When Dae-young hears this, he texts the parents from Deok-jin's phone, asking them to meet at the gym. He warns, "Anyone who doesn't come is siding with Coach Choi." Soon, a crowd gathers at the gym. Deok-jin tells them, "In high school, Coach Choi saw his dad bribing a coach. Now he's doing the same to parents." Ja-sung's dad stands up and says, "If we tell the truth, we'll all get in trouble, and our kids will be banned from games." Dae-jong replies, "We may not be perfect parents, but we can't let our kids be ashamed of us." This reminds Ja-sung's dad of his son's words after seeing him bribe the teacher. Ja-sung said, "I'm embarrassed by you, Dad." Then Dae-jong adds, "Coach Choi illegally runs a bar. We can use that to stop him." So, Dae-jong gathers evidence while Ae-rin brings police to the bar. Coach Choi sees them and tries to sneak out the back. Dae-jong texts him, asking to meet at the gym. When he arrives, only Dae-jong is there. She says, "Your illegal bar is exposed, and so are your bribes." The parents step forward, and Coach Choi realizes he's caught. He steps forward to attack Dae-jong, but she knocks him down with one move. Everyone is shocked by this. Then, Ae-rin enters with police officers. Just like that, the teacher is taken away by police, and his bar gets shut down. Meanwhile, when the principal hears about this, he picks a new coach. When the meeting ends, Teacher Hyun approaches Deok-jin. First, she thanks him, saying, "You were really cool today." He asks, "You think I'm cool?" She says, "I know you worked hard to solve this problem. See you next time." Then Deok-jin stops her. He walks toward Teacher Hyun seriously, but someone bumps into him, ruining the nice moment. Later, he asks Hyun for coffee. She smiles and agrees. In class, the teacher asks who wants to do a photo exhibit. Shura and a girl quickly raise hands. Ji-ho raises his hand after seeing Shura. Ja-sung starts to raise his too, but a classmate stops him. Then Dae-young also raises his hand. Now Ja-sung panics. He can only watch as the four leave. He blames the classmate who stopped him. A 40-year-old man becomes 18 again and ends up in class with his daughter. One day, Shura gets hit by falling books. Ji-ho and Dae-young rush to check on her. Dae-young wants to touch her head, but Ji-ho stops him. Ji-ho says, "You can't touch her." Dae-young asks, "Why not?" After thinking, Ji-ho says, "Your hands are too dirty." Dae-young looks and agrees. Then, Shura leaves with another girl. Dae-young asks if Ji-ho likes Shura. Ji-ho says, "Mind your business." Dae-young can tell Ji-ho likes her. He feels happy about it because he's watched Ji-ho grow up. But when he thinks Ji-ho might take his daughter away, Dae-young suddenly gets angry. He shouts, "All men are bad!" Then, Ja-sung walks in and warns Dae-young to stay away from Shura. That night, Shura is working at the convenience store. Ji-ho comes in. He looks like he wants to tell Shura something, but before he can speak, Ja-sung arrives too. Then, Ja-sung picks 2 drink cans. After paying, he gives one to Shura. Shura asks why he's giving it to her. Ja-sung says it's, "Buy one, get one free," and throwing it away would be wasteful. Shura stays quiet. Suddenly, Ji-ho grabs the drink and starts drinking it. This makes Ja-sung really mad. Just then, Dae-young comes to the store, worried about his daughter. The scene changes. The 3 men stand outside the store. Dae-young asks why they're still here. Ja-sung replies, "You're still here too." Dae-young says he's waiting for Shura to walk her home. Shura finishes work and comes out. She asks why they're all still there. Dae-young says. Your dad asked me something. Let's talk while walking. So, Shura leaves with Dae-young. The two boys stay behind and eventually go home separately. On the way, Dae-young asks if Shura likes Ji-ho or Ja-sung. Shura says she likes neither. Ji-ho is just a childhood friend, and Ja-sung always bullies her brother. When they reach a crossing, Shura tries to take a shortcut. Dae-young stops her. Don't go this way. There are no cameras here. It looks creepy. Then, Dae-young attaches a safety alarm to Shura's backpack. After saying goodbye to Shura, Dae-young turns to leave. But what he doesn't know is, someone is already watching him. The mysterious man's room is covered with photos of Dae-young. He even keeps records of Dae-young's daily routines on his computer, down to the exact minute and second. The next day, Dae-jong arrives at work. A man takes her to the office. The three people inside join the company at the same time as Dae-jong. The man says he got news. Only 3 of the 4 will become full-time employees. The remaining 1 will be fired. Dae-jong wants to check with HR, but Kwon Yumi gets upset and storms out of the office. The man says the other 3 already have their own shows. If Dae-jong doesn't get a show soon, it means she'll be fired. At work, a producer suddenly approaches Dae-jong. He wants her to host a show about divorce. To avoid being fired, Dae-jong agrees. Later, Dae-jong tells Ae-rin about it. Since Ae-rin knows Dae-young's secret, she tells Dae-young about it. But Dae-young doesn't object. Later, Dae-young goes to the convenience store to see Shura, but finds she's already left work. Meanwhile, Shura walks down the same road as yesterday. She enters the dark alleyway, not knowing the mysterious man is waiting for her. Shura walks home after work when suddenly a robber appears in the alley. Shura immediately turns to run. The man chases after her. Soon, he catches up to her. Just then, Shura stomps on his foot, then quickly counters and takes him down with 2 moves. The robber is shocked. He never expected the girl to be so strong. How dare you mess with me? Turns out, Mom had trained Shura in self-defense long ago. No one expected her to be a fighting prodigy. After just 1 demo from the coach, Shura mastered every move effortlessly. When the man pulls out a knife, Shura remembers her coach's advice. If you can't win, run! Then she spots the alarm Dae-young gave her. She triggers it and bolts. Just as the thug almost catches her, Dae-young appears and kicks him down. Soon, Dae-young drags him to the police station. When Dae-jong hears what happened, she rushes over to check if Shura is hurt. Dae-young tries to teach the thug a lesson, but the cops stop him. Dae-young asks why the street has no cameras. The thug just smirks and claims Dae-young attacked him first, threatening to sue. Suddenly, Dae-jong slaps the man's head, then yanks his collar angrily. Shura's grandma arrives and grabs his hair, pummeling him wildly. Chaos erupts. Police later discovered the man has a history of similar crimes. To target Shura, he planned for a month, stalking her secretly and tracking her family's routines. His walls were covered with Shura's photos. Seeing this, an officer accidentally blocks the security camera. Outside the station, Grandma thanks Dae-young warmly, but his next words shock everyone. Don't mention it, mother-in-law. Dae-jong gasps. Mother-in-law? I'm your mother-in-law? You like Shura? Dae-young's love is purely fatherly, but outsiders misunderstand. But others think it's a young couple in love. The next day is the school festival. When Shura walks out in a beautiful dress, several boys stare in awe. Dae-young sighs, saying she looks just like her mother did back then. Shura takes out her phone to take a photo, and Dae-young quickly steps in to help. Ji-ho and Ja-sung see this and glare at Dae-young again. Later, Dae-young sends the photo to Dae-jong, wanting her to see their daughter at school. But Dae-jong just replies coldly, I see. At the festival, Dae-young watches the singer on stage and remembers 18 years ago in this same place, hearing the same person sing the same song when he and Dae-jong became a couple. He turns to leave, determined to find Dae-jong and tell her the truth about who he really is. But when he sees her, she's with Ji-hoon. Heartbroken, Dae-young walks away. Actually, Dae-jong just ran into Ji-hoon by chance. Meanwhile, after Dae-young leaves, Ja-sung confesses his feelings to Shura in front of everyone. A 40-year-old man back in his 18-year-old body suddenly finds out someone confessed to his daughter. 2 days earlier, Ja-sung said he'd confessed to Shura and asked Dae-young for advice. Hearing Ja-sung plans to confess to his daughter, Dae-young tries to stop him. He remembers Shura once said she hates public singing confessions. So Dae-young lies to Ja-sung, saying Shura loves public singing confessions. Ja-sung does exactly that, and it works. Dae-young goes to the field and hears classmates asking Ja-sung what he'll do on his date with Shura. Holding hands? Kissing? Seeing Ja-sung's smug face, Dae-young gets furious. Then, he follows his daughter to the date spot. Dae-young thinks there are many people at the baseball stadium. Ja-sung probably won't do anything inappropriate. He turns around to leave, but when he turns, he sees an image on a billboard, imagining Ja-sung kissing his daughter. Dae-young rushes inside and sits down right next to Shura. Just then, Ji-ho comes over with drinks. When Dae-young sees Ji-ho, he's confused. He asks Shura, "Didn't you come to the game with Ja-sung?" Actually, after yesterday's confession, Shura returned the flowers to Ja-sung privately so he wouldn't lose face. Ji-ho happened to see this. So the next day, Ji-ho buys 2 baseball tickets and invites Shura to the game. Seeing that Shura rejected Ja-sung, Dae-young feels relieved. Meanwhile, Ja-sung is heartbroken alone. Elsewhere, Deok-jin dresses up as a clown and goes to a party. There, he unexpectedly meets teacher Hyeon. Hyeon recognizes him as Deok-jin. She quickly says, "You didn't see me today," then turns to leave. Deok-jin stops her and says some emotional words, then hugs her from behind. But then he suddenly sees teacher Hyeon standing across from them. Deok-jin realizes he's not actually hugging teacher Hyeon. When the person turns around, Deok-jin gets a big shock. Meanwhile, Shura gets burned in chemistry class. Dae-young quickly takes her to rinse it. When Ji-ho sees this, he gets very worried. Then, he goes to buy medicine for Shura. Dae-young also comes to buy medicine for Shura. Ji-ho knows Dae-young is buying it for Shura too. He tries to find Shura before Dae-young does. But when he reaches the classroom, Shura isn't there. He goes to the schoolyard and sees Dae-young applying medicine to Shura's burn. At this moment, Shura remembers when she got hurt before. Her father would also put medicine on her wounds. Seeing this scene, Ji-ho recalls what Ja-sung said to Shura that day. Ja-sung asked Shura, "Do you like someone?" Shura nodded. Ji-ho thinks Shura likes Dae-young. A female classmate also sees this scene. She also thinks Dae-young likes Shura. That evening, Dae-young asks Dae-jong to have dinner together. As they leave, it starts raining. Dae-young says he forgot his umbrella and offers to walk Dae-jong home first, then borrow her umbrella to go back. Actually, Dae-young left his umbrella at the restaurant on purpose. On their way back, a car splashes water at them. Dae-young quickly shields Dae-jong with his body. When they reach her building, they meet Ji-hoon, who came to give Dae-jong flowers. Seeing this, Dae-young gets angry. He says, "Don't smile at people so easily. It might give them the wrong idea." Dae-jong is confused. Dae-young leaves without explaining. After Dae-young leaves, Ji-hoon tells Dae-jong that Dae-young likes her. Meanwhile, the female classmate goes to find Shura at the convenience store and tells her, "Dae-young likes you." When they get home, both mother and daughter are troubled about Dae-young. Dae-jong thinks to herself, "Maybe I should avoid him." Both think, "He couldn't possibly like me." The 18-year-old high school student suddenly kisses 40-year-old Dae-jong. Their friends downstairs happen to see this. The next moment, Dae-jong pushes him away and slaps him. Because Dae-jong doesn't know yet that this Dae-young is actually her husband who returned to being 18. Dae-young chases after her to reveal his true identity. But suddenly, Ji-hoon appears, takes Dae-jong's hand, and leaves. Watching them walk away, Dae-young stares angrily. Meanwhile, Shura tells Dae-jong she doesn't want to go to college. Dae-jong gets very angry after hearing this. She struggles at work because she never finished school, so she strongly disagrees with Shura's decision to drop out. Shura says, "You made mistakes when you were young, and that's why I was born by accident." She blames her parents for never caring about her. Dae-young watches from a distance, heartbroken. The next day at school, Dae-young hands Shura a bankbook, lying. "Your dad asked me to give this to you." Shura opens it, and sees notes from her parents about her childhood milestones. Each entry has a special message. September 30th, 2002, the day Shura first rolled over. October 26th, 2002, Shura's first ride in a shopping cart. May 22nd, 2003, the day Shura took her first steps. Reading these, Shura bursts into tears. That night, she calls her dad, sobbing, "I miss you so much." She asks Dae-young when he'll visit them again. After hanging up, Shura cries uncontrollably. Dae-young is heartbroken too. He decides to tell Dae-jong the truth. "I'm Hong Dae-young," he says, and explains how he became young again. But Dae-jong doesn't believe him. She thinks it's a cruel joke and warns him, "Stay away from my child." She demands he return Dae-young's phone. The next day at work, Dae-jong keeps thinking about his words. She searches online. How to become young again. Only scam ads pop up. She mutters, "I must be crazy to even consider this." Meanwhile, after school, Shura overhears girls gossiping about her. She pretends not to hear, but then they insult her mom. Shura snaps. She shoves one girl to the ground, demanding an apology. As Shura turns to leave, boys block her path, friends of the bullies. One girl sneers, "Apologize and we'll let you go." Shura yanks her arm free. The boy feels humiliated and raises his hand to hit Shura. Just then, Jiho shows up in time. He kicks the boy away, then he grabs Shura's hand and runs. The others quickly chase after them. As they pass a street corner, Ja-sung sees Shura and Jiho holding hands. He then notices the group chasing them. Ja-sung steps forward and stops them. He says, "Don't touch Hong Shura, or I won't let you off easy, and don't touch that boy either." Meanwhile, ever since Jiho confessed his feelings to Shura, he feels like he made her uncomfortable. So he tells her, "You can ignore my confession, but I don't want our friendship to become awkward because of me." After Jiho finishes speaking, he walks away first. Then, Shura calls out to him. She steps forward and takes his hand. Back at home, Jiho watches an old childhood video. Suddenly, he notices Shura's dad looks exactly like Go Woo-young. Jiho is shocked. The next day, Jiho holds Shura's hand in the hallway. Dae-young suddenly appears and walks toward them. Seeing this, Jiho quickly lets go of Shura's hand in panic. Meanwhile, Dae-jong goes to pick up her repaired shoes. The clerk says, "I'm your fan. Because a student bought shoes here and told me a lot about you. That's how I noticed you." Dae-jong then recalls past events. She realizes how much Go Woo-young resembles Dae-young. At this moment, she finally understands. Go Woo-young is Hong Dae-young. She quickly calls Dae-young. They meet on the rooftop. Looking at the young Dae-young, Dae-jong asks him, "Why did you hide it for so long? Why reveal it now?" Dae-young stays silent. He pulls Dae-jong into a hug. After going through so much, they finally recognize each other. The 40-year-old husband returns to being 18, but his wife doesn't. Because Deok-jin and Ae-rin hid Dae-young's true identity, Dae-jong decides to mess with them. She tells Deok-jin, "I like your son." This shocks both of them. Deok-jin can't even find a reason to object. Then Ae-rin tells Dae-jong, "Go Woo-young is Hong Dae-young." But Dae-jong thinks she's lying. She grabs Dae-young and leaves. Only then do they get a message from Dae-jong and realize she tricked them. Outside, Dae-young borrows Deok-jin's fancy car and takes Dae-jong on a date. But while eating, people mistake them for mother and son. Hearing the whispers around them, either of them explains. Back home that night, Dae-jong looks at the photos they took earlier. Seeing the age gap between them, she feels a little sad. Downstairs, Dae-young is about to leave when he sees Jiho and Shura holding hands. Jiho quickly lets go when he spots Dae-young, but Shura grabs his hand again and tells Dae-young they're dating. As he leaves, Dae-young gets a call. The caller asks, "Are you Hong Shura's father, Hong Dae-young?" Dae-young says yes, but then the caller goes silent. Dae-young suddenly realizes, this phone belongs to Go Woo-young. He turns around and sees Jiho on the phone. Now Jiho knows Dae-young's true identity. The next day, the school tells Dae-young he and Shur-woo made the national team. Shur-woo is thrilled, but Dae-young isn't happy. Shur-woo calls his dad, hoping he'll come to the game. Dae-young answers quietly, unsure how to explain. That night, Dae-young goes to Dae-jong. He tells Dae-jong, "I'll find a way to change back no matter what." Dae-jong asks, "What about your basketball dream?" Dae-young replies, "For me, you and the kids are more important than any dream." Hearing this, Dae-jong feels she ruined Dae-young's dream. Years ago, Dae-young gave up his dream for her and the kids. Now, when he gets another chance, he chooses to give up again. Dae-young goes back to where he became young, trying to change back the same way. But it doesn't work. He yells, "I want to change back." Next day, Dae-young and Dae-jong meet on the street. Dae-jong regrets recognizing him, thinking she should let him live his new life. But Dae-young says, "After becoming young, at first I was happy to play basketball again. But compared to winning games, seeing our child's first steps made me happier." When he looks up again, Dae-young has returned to his original age. They go together to watch Shur-woo's game. Seeing his dad there, Shur-woo tells his teammates, "This is the first time my dad came to my game, so we have to win. We must win." After their hard work, they win the game at the last moment. Dae-young hugs his son tightly. That night, Shura gets bullied by the same girl again, who even brings her parents. As they scold Shura, Dae-young arrives and stands up for his daughter. He makes them apologize to Shura. After they leave, Shura hugs her dad, asking why he didn't come sooner. "I'm sorry, I kept you waiting," Dae-young says. Dae-young tells the kids he and Dae-jong will remarry. The children cry happy tears. Meanwhile, Deok-jin and teacher Hyun start dating. Deok-jin asks if he should remove her helmet before kissing. Hyun says no and kisses him. 2 years later, at a class reunion, Shura sits between Ji-ho and Ja-sung. Ji-ho then takes out flowers and gives them to Shura. When Ja-sung sees this, he laughs and says, "Shura doesn't like that kind of thing." But Shura replies, "You remembered our 800-day anniversary." Ja-sung grabs a beer and starts drinking. Soon he passes out drunk. Then someone mentions Go Woo-young. Shura wonders why Go Woo-young suddenly left back then. Even now, she still doesn't know Go Woo-young was actually Hong Dae-young. Meanwhile, Dae-young now runs a basketball club. If everything could end like a movie's happy ending, then our lives would have perfect endings too. This is the end of the drama 18 again. Hit that subscribe button to support us. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.